Storm Debby. We're looking at the satellite imagery this morning. The center of Debby is just centered about 15 miles south of Savannah, Georgia this morning. Still a tropical storm, maximum sustained winds around 40 miles per hour. And the center of Debby is gradually moving offshore of the coast of Georgia and will be out over the water off the coast of South Carolina here for the next 2 to 3 days. But what we're seeing now are these big rain bands to the north of the center that are moving onshore in portions of South Carolina and up into North Carolina, producing very heavy rainfall. And so if we look at the radar imagery this morning, you can see that expansive area of rain largely to the north and northeast of the center of Debby, which you can see here just to the south of Savannah. The heaviest rainfall occurring in places like Myrtle Beach. Up towards the North Carolina border is a strong rain band moving into southeast North Carolina near Cape Fear in the Wilmington area. Heavy rainfall also moving up into central and east central North Carolina as well. So rainfall is going to continue to be the big hazard with Debby over the next several days. So let's take a look at the latest forecast. We are forecasting the center of Debby to move offshore later today, but it's going to just meander around here off the coast of South Carolina all the way through Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday, and then finally start to pull northward, moving inland across portions of South Carolina on Thursday, and then up into central North Carolina on Friday. But this slow motion of Debby is going to result in that long duration of heavy rainfall and going to cause potentially catastrophic flooding. We already have flash flood warnings in effect for much of coastal southeastern Georgia, Savannah area, Hilton Head, on up into South Carolina, up into Charleston, up into the Myrtle Beach area this morning. Those watches and warnings are likely to expand northward and over the next several days and will remain in effect for quite some time. Beyond 3 days now, we are expecting Debby to finally accelerate northeastward, taking the remnants of the system up into the mid-Atlantic states Friday night and Saturday, and then up across New England on Sunday. So that will finally end the heavy rainfall in the coastal Carolinas, but could result in another round of heavy rainfall up into the mid-Atlantic states and the northeastern U.S. later this week and into this weekend. So let's take a look at the overall rainfall forecast. Again, we're expecting widespread rainfall totals of 10 to 20 inches from coastal South Carolina up into portions of North Carolina. We could see isolated amounts as high as 25 inches, places near the North Carolina, South Carolina border, Wilmington, Myrtle Beach, down to Charleston. And then we're expecting to see that heavy rainfall eventually spread up northward into central North Carolina, places like Raleigh, Roanoke Rapids, up into south central Virginia, and then on up into the mid-Atlantic states as we go through the weekend. So let's look at the risk of flash flooding. First today, this area of high risk, again a level 4 out of 4. We're very concerned about the possibility of life-threatening flash flooding, places like Savannah, Charleston, on up to Myrtle Beach, to areas just west of Wilmington. And then that risk of high risk of flash flooding is going to extend a little farther northeastward tomorrow, again Wednesday into Thursday, still including Charleston and Myrtle Beach, but now into the Wilmington area. And you can see that moderate risk now in red extending up into much of south central North Carolina, up into the Research Triangle region, into places like Fayetteville, Cheraw, along the I-95 corridor in South Carolina. And then as we go from Thursday into Friday, that high risk extends northward up into Raleigh, Fayetteville, central North Carolina, while still including Myrtle Beach and Wilmington and Cheraw and the I-95 corridor. And you can see that moderate risk now extending up into portions of south central Virginia, places like Danville, to Halifax, up just to the southwest of Richmond. So again, a multi-day heavy rainfall event that's going to play out. So again, let's remind people of what the impacts are that you're likely to see when you have 15 to 25 inches of rain. You're going to see inundation of businesses and homes, widespread inundation in some cases. You're going to have rescues and evacuations underway. You're going to greatly affect transportation. You're going to have roads flooded. We're already seeing closures on major highways and interstates today, and that's going to continue and expand in scale and scope over the next couple of days. You can also have roads eroded from underneath, so it's very dangerous to be out and driving in these flooded conditions, especially at night. And then also you're going to see places that don't normally flood are going to flood in these types of events. So again, know if you live in a flood-prone area, know what you're going to do if water starts to rise in your area to get to a safe place. Again, have multiple ways to receive weather alerts through a NOAA weather radio, through wireless emergency alerts enabled on your smartphone, that you can get that information and move to higher ground if you're asked to do so by local authorities. Let's move on now to the wind hazards. Again, we are expecting Debby to intensify after it does move back offshore and become maybe a strong tropical storm before finally making landfall on Thursday again in South Carolina. We have tropical storm warnings in effect from north of Altamaha Sound in Georgia through Savannah, Beaufort, Hilton Head, Charleston, up to Georgetown and Myrtle Beach, and now into southeastern North Carolina, places like Sunset Beach, Cape Fear, Wrightsville Beach, and now we've issued a tropical storm watch north of Surf City up to Beaufort Inlet, including places like Morehead City, Beaufort, Atlantic Beach, for the possibility and expectation of tropical storm force winds in the warning area within the next 36 hours, already ongoing, and will continue to expand and spread northward and eastward with time over the next 2 to 3 days. On the storm surge front, we have a storm surge watches and warnings that are in effect for portions of the North Carolina and South Carolina coast, expecting to see 2 to 4 feet of inundation above ground level between Altamont Sound up to Cape Fear. Again, that's going to exacerbate the water problems in places like Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Savannah, Hilton Head, where you're going to have ocean water moving up onto normally dry land while that rainfall flooding is occurring, and that rainfall is not going to be able to drain very effectively back out into the ocean because the wind field associated with Debby is going to be piling that ocean water up onto normally dry land as well. North of Cape Fear up to Cape Lookout, you could see 1 to 3 feet of inundation above ground level in this area. And then finally, just want to wrap up on the overall key messages for Debby this morning. The big point that we want to make is the potential, again, for that life-threatening and potentially catastrophic flooding, especially across eastern South Carolina through Friday. And we're going to see heavy rainfall resulting in flooding impacts from northern North Carolina all the way through the mid-Atlantic states and into southern New England through Sunday morning. So that's going to be a little farther downstream, but everybody in those areas needs to be watching Debby and the potential issuance of any flood watches or warnings for your area as well. We're going to have the continuation of dangerous storm surge and tropical storm conditions along portions of the coast from Georgia up through North Carolina, and where we have storm surge and tropical storm watches and warnings in effect. And just a final reminder for folks in Florida that are sort of in the cleanup phase behind Debby today, again, deadly hazards are going to remain, including downed power lines, unsafe environments, flooded areas. Ensure you're using generators properly, and ensure you take care in the heat, or it's still in August. It's going to be hot. There's not easy access to air conditioning, and make sure you use those tools and equipment as you're cleaning up safely. Again, stay tuned for more information here on Debby from here at the National Hurricane Center at hurricanes.gov. You can find more information at your local National Weather Service office at weather.gov. We'll continue to be with you throughout the event. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Brennan at the National Hurricane Center.